Okay, so far you've built a lot of stuff in your game. Things work, and now we want to start adding something to make scoring with. As you've learned, all we have to do to add something is click anywhere, choose create, and then let's make this thing be called coin. And we're going to edit the sprite, and there's a built-in coin, browse, category, objects, and not too far from the top there's a coin. And there's 4 frames of it, so it's going to spin, which is kind of cool. So if I go to the animation section and pick animation and create a new one, I'm going to call this spin. Most of this part of the exercise is about some logic blocks to add in there. So I'm going to add a frame, and add a frame, and add a frame, and click. So if I test it, I can decide how fast I want that to go around. I kind of like a little bit quicker. Somewhere in 3 or 4 makes me happy. You do whatever you like. 5 is fine. 6 is kind of weird. 7. I'm going to go with 4, I think. I don't know. Click OK. So now I've got this thing called coin, and I need behaviors to make it work. So this, of course, is a collision, just like that door was, that says when the player bumps into me, do this thing. So it's going to bump into the player from any side. We also need to make that thing play the animation, which we'll get to in a second, I guess. So if I run this, by the way, right now the coin's not moving. So before we get too much further, we might want to make it spin. So this is a collision trigger. The once trigger says when this thing loads, do this thing, and that is going to open up the properties for animation for this object and start. And we need to make sure that we loop it. So now if I run it, we can see it looping. Alright, that's good. So now when it collides with the player, separate action, separate trigger, we want to make it disappear and create a score to send to our score object. So we have a scoring controller over on the side here, and we need to figure out how to send the information to that scoring object. So because we've got the scoreboard down at the bottom already set to go. So what we want to do is when it hits, we're going to do a components and destroyer. So what that's going to do is make it go away. So we say test it, jump up, oops, I missed the board, there we go, and it disappears. So that works, but we also need to have it create a score and maybe even make a sound. And the sounds are available in the component section of our logic blocks, and we can pick something, and there's sort of a typical jingly noise that gets made when we choose that. What do I use? I don't know. I can't remember where the ones I want are. Chirp, beep, button, alarm, creatures, damage. I don't know. Pickups. Let's try that. Pickups. That's weird. Looking for something more jingly. That'll work. So you can go through the whole list as you go, but now I've got a sound. I don't want to waste your time while I pick a sound. And we do not want it to loop. We can control the volume, which is kind of handy. We want to take the spaghetti string. It's actually not what it's called officially, but if I stop playing, good, it stopped. Delete the string. You should be able to click on it normally. And so now if I move this in the middle, hit play, and you could do it a couple ways. You could say out to the destroyer. I'm going to go ahead and bifurcate it here so it now destroys it. We still need to make the score work. So now when we run it, we're just going to test, and that works. That's nice. And we need to make the score work. So the way the scoring works on this is we're going to use a component called a message. The message is just a way of communicating data between objects. And so we're going to say when you get destroyed, send a message, and we're going to send a message to something specific. And we're going to say send it to the score controller, score keeper, and now we click OK. So to test this, what we're looking to have happen is, does it work? We're going to send a message here called score or coin score. That's the message. And if we run it, we just want to see that all these spaghetti slices light up when that happens. So they do. So the signal is going all the way through to the message. And I'm going to add one more thing. I want to make sure that each object I send to the scoreboard can have its own value. So I'm going to go to numbers in the logic and math section, choose a number, and drop this number in there. So the number we're going to say is whatever, 5 or 10. So we're going to say in, and the value we're going to set is going to be like 5. Let's label it coin value, and then we out to here. So testing it again, we want to make sure the value goes all the way through the spaghetti, and there it went all the way through. So we're looking good. And now to make that work, we have to go to our score controller, which is over here, and edit. This will be very quick. So here's our already existing score and lives thing. I'm going to deal with the score right now and the lives later. And so the score is going to receive something in the mail. There's a mailbox in triggers. There's the mailbox. So what we're looking for here, it's looking for specific mail, and I believe it was score, coin score. Hope that was right. And so we're going to go to the score. That's not the right one. This is the value. This is the label that says score. We need another GUI object, which is label. And this will actually be the label that's going to hold our score. So we're going to call this one 0 at the beginning. Let's see, it's over that yellow, so we probably want to pick a color that's visible, like red is a good idea. And it's up here, so I'm going to change the size. I believe the one I used before was 4.8. There we go. So now I'm going to click OK, and the out is going to go to the value, I think. Let's try it. So I'm going to watch this number up here, run it, so that when I go up, it changes the value to 5. Now all I have to do is move that object to someplace better, like next to where it's supposed to go in the scoreboard. So here's the thing, bring it down there. And there we go. So if we play it, and we can see our score change. Now all we have to do is copy these wherever we want them, clone, 2, 3, I might stick one right there. And if you have a game that has some hazards in it, which is not that hard to do either, then you might put them over a hazard of some kind. So for example, if I put one here, and I say done cloning, and delete a few of these things, now the player has to jump over that, and they might not have all the strength in the world to do that. Let's try it. Get the dots. There, barely made it. Okay, so now our game is working. Our score should be stacking up, and it's not. So we have a bit of a problem here, and this is going to happen when you're doing game design. You have to figure out where is the connection not happening. So I made a mistake somewhere that only causes the score to go up to 5, no matter how many coins I catch. And let's figure that out. Go back to edit game. And what's happening here, if we think about the logic, and we open this up, and we open up behaviors, we notice that when I catch a coin, let's just run it. So when I catch a coin, the value that's happening is it's sending the value of 5. Come on, jump. There we go. So it's sending a value of 5 every time I hit a coin. So you can see the spaghetti light up. And it's working. It's sending it to coin score, and it's collecting at the other end. But what's not happening is it's not sending it properly to the scoreboard. So let's take a look at this and find out what's going on. So click behaviors. And what I figured out about this is there's a label. We can't do the math to the label. Label is just this display. So if I choose logic and math and choose number, and let's call this the score, and start at 0, and now move the spaghetti through this one. So the set is going to be added to the plus on this, and now this is going to go to the value on this, and play it, If only I could play this properly. Okay, now the number's going up and it's working properly. So now your scoreboard works. You've learned a couple things about what the connections are because the label is different from the value, and the value is what's increasing here. So now you should have a scoreboard that works in your game. Keep doing good work. Appreciate your sticking with me on this. Have a great day.